Hello, magical creatures, and welcome back to Around the Cauldron. I'm your host, Zachariah the Witch. Today's episode is about love, amor, mostly just love spells, which are in connection to relationships, romance, as well as heartache or separation, divorce. I've worked with this topic. I've avoided this topic. I've negotiated some invisible moral and ethical code in the past. I've tried to deter people from fixating on this whole thing, but I guess I just have come to a place about the whole thing in its entirety, no matter what it might be, that I respect and acknowledge, just like I do for myself, that free will is free will, and everyone has a right to choose what direction they want to focus their energies towards. And if that happens to be some unrequited love or a person that they just cannot separate from or stop thinking about, that is their decision and theirs alone, and it's not my place to judge. So, that being said, I have continued for, I don't know, like however long I've been doing this, especially since I've been more online, and just here. I wasn't expecting the frequency of how often I would get an email or how often I would get a request about custom spell work that has to do with anything with like a love spell or romance or bring somebody back to me. But after so many times of just saying no or deflecting or trying to redirect a person's attention or awareness, I've decided to talk openly about it and just work with what feels right in the moment from this day forward. So it's, this is kind of like new steps for me, but I won't say that I'm a little like nervous, but at the same time, I feel like in my gut, it's the right decision to make. And I also know that I can discern and judge for myself if I am able to work with a person and their situation, or be of assistance or help as like a guide or whatever, So anyway, all of that being said as well, on that personal level, there are some moral dilemmas, as I mentioned earlier, that not just I have thought about or thought I needed to adhere to or think about, but there's other witches I've talked to that seem to face this whole like conflict when it comes to love spells, especially if it seems like a change of the issue with consent or manipulation via magic or supernatural forces. Some of us, collectively think that love spells are an attempt to influence the feelings, the actions of other people without their consent. And that, of course, will raise ethical concerns because it can interfere with free will, as I said, and the autonomy of anyone that's involved in said magical practice or working. But witches that follow ethical codes may question, okay, is it right to perform a love spell on behalf of another person if it goes against the principle of respecting their individual agency and their personal boundaries? And so they grapple with that responsibility of not doing harm, even if it's emotional or otherwise, because they don't want it to happen to any party involved. Additionally, some of us consider the long-term consequences. Love is complex. Love is so multifaceted. It's full of emotion, and it is forcing another person's affections via magical means could make it artificial or unstable and unsustainable, even if the connection has returned. And as I've warned clients in the past, it can lead to an unbalanced relationship outcome or a weird toxic dependency. It can turn into an eventual realization of manipulation. It can make the person, especially if the person has the spell worked over them and they find out that the person they're with did a spell on them, what if they're afraid of that kind of stuff? What if they have a phobia of the things that they don't understand? And that can cause harm too. They could have a really bad reaction. So ultimately, there's a lot of the moral dilemma that we face as witches if we're going to do spells for other people, that we have to ask ourselves, is it appropriate to intervene in matters of love using magic, particularly when it involves the feelings and the choices of others? And if they're not there to speak up for themselves or, stand on their own 2 feet and say, here I am, and I'm willingly allowing my energy to be affected for this person's personal gain and satisfaction, most of us opt out of doing this. And we try to encourage other things. And that's kind of been like the play that I've done for a long time. And it still will be my go-to and my default. But now I'm learning that people just want what they want and they're willing to take the chance. And that chance that they're taking, it doesn't come back on me, it goes back on them. And that's the warning that I give, is that this is being done for you and it's being assisted to benefit you, to get the outcome that you want, the luck that you want, the attraction that you want. But all of those wants, they have an energy output and an energy return that is required. Give and take, ebb and flow. And that's where I try to stand with that very clearly. Now, another part of this is, okay, right, cool, morals, ethics, et cetera, et cetera. What about how does it work? What are the different ways of making it work for somebody? What is it, a spell? Is it an intention thing? What is it? And so I have a few different things that I've done in the past for other people. And, these are still things that I keep in my repertoire. I usually develop a custom spell or magical working for a specific person and their needs. Sometimes I'll bring up an old one that I've used before and just alter it to fit those ingredients and their situation. So some examples are there's one called a rekindling love spell. And it's where you take their names, you put it on paper. You could have separate candles for each of them. You light them next to each other, and then you burn those papers at the same time. And that's supposed to symbolize releasing their past pain and giving them potential for a new love to grow, or their love to return purely without the past pain and the trauma or the bad stuff. One example. Another one is let's say they haven't been in a relationship with this person, but they've always been attracted and they want to make this person attracted to them too, mutually. And so a lot of it, again, is I use a candle symbolized by a certain color. You can bless the candle, carve the name in it of whoever needs more of the attractive energy or whatever you want to call it. And then, of course, you light it. You can do it at a specific time during a specific moon phase. And, you can also give the person that you're doing the spell for some of the awareness of what they could be doing, what they should focus on, what they should see and perceive, what will help assist the magical working. But the long and short of it is that if you do focus on the moral or the ethical stance, I think most of us, if we're willing to do any love magic or love spells for another person, regardless of what the connection is for their relationship or potential relationship, most of us do things that help them heal their heart, heal their emotional body, help them let go, help them break any cords or energies or attachments that they might have that they don't realize aren't actually healthy. Which is why they can't move on. And a lot of that stems from focusing on more of the healing aspect so that people can see the truth about why a relationship is not working or why a relationship didn't work in the past and continues to just fall apart. But that's, brings me back to my point. People are going to do what they want to do. They have their free will. They make the choices that they make. And I think the only thing that we can do, if this is what we choose in our practice as magical manipulators or spellcasters or whatever you want to call any of us in modern day witchcraft. The thing that we need to focus on the most is that, yes, we have our own inner moral compass. And at the same time, it's good to adapt and personalize based on that inner moral compass about where you apply it in each individual's personalized spell for them, the outcome, et cetera, et cetera. Sometimes people just need a good, firm, no, you're being unreasonable. This doesn't seem right. Are you hearing what you're saying? Like, you literally said that this person was abusive and they're not going to change. And sometimes you just have to walk away and wish them the best because, again, it isn't your responsibility. But if you do decide to take that on and work with a person in love, magic, romance, any of that stuff, be mindful. Don't promise anything extravagant. Don't give absolutes. I tell people straight out the gate, I don't offer an absolute 100 guarantee that it's going to go exactly how you plan or what you're hoping for. We could get pretty close, or we could totally just miss the mark. And that's a risk that we all take because life is chance. That's all that life is. And I've said this before in my blog. And when I speak about chance, it's the same thing as when, we shuffle a deck of tarot cards, and the odds of getting the same 3 cards in a shuffled and cut deck of 78 cards is approximately 2.19 in 1 million, or 1 in 456,456. Just like playing the lottery, just like taking a chance. Randomization. And I think when we connect and meet with people in our lives too, we need to remember that there is synchronicity, but there isn't always a twin flame, a soulmate, a life partner, and a divinely ordained and synchronistic meeting of 2 people and 2 hearts on fire. Sometimes we also meet people that are absolute pieces of shit. They don't have a grasp on who they are and what they're about. They lean heavy into us, they latch onto us, or it goes the other way too. And it's all about, again, like I said in my previous conversations, it's the accountability that you take for yourself and the awareness that you have for yourself and holding on to those ideals the most. People are going to do what they're going to do, and you can't feel entirely responsible for the choices that they make, especially if they don't even relate to you. And yeah, if you're in a relationship and they choose to leave you, again, it's still their choice. And you may or may not have done things that led up to them coming to that conclusion. And you may have been totally surprised and T-boned and blindsided. Either way, though, you got an answer. So I hope this all makes sense. I didn't want to ramble about it. But yeah, love is very multifaceted, and it's not that simple all the time. So be mindful, be cautious, remember that there are consequences, but if it's what you choose to do, you ain't going to get any judgment from me. So have a wonderful day. If you want to reach me for a consultation or a reading, I no longer have the scheduler on my website, but I do take messages and respond in the order received. My website is www.zachariahthewitch.com. You can also follow me on social media at Zachariah the Witch. I'm only on Instagram. I am on YouTube. I don't count that as social media. And right now my YouTube channel, Zachariah the Witch, is where you can see new uploads and videos of the podcast that I do with my friend Roy called Weird Agenda. We just did a 2-part series where he interviewed me about how I became who I am as a openly and public witch and practitioner. And yeah, I think it's kind of boring, but some people are interested in those things. But after that episode, we have a whole set of ideas and episodes and themes that we have already written out and we are recording. And most of them will revolve around strange, weird, eerie, and odd things throughout our experience as human beings and our history, and even present day, of how weird the world really is. It's fucking scarier than anything you could write in fiction half the time. So I hope you enjoy those types of things. Follow us on Weird Agenda. You can find it all there. All of these are on Spotify, iTunes, blah, blah, blah. I mean, if you're listening to it, you obviously found this somehow. So you can find the other ones too. But have a great day. Be well and don't be a piece of shit.